if the soul joins the person or not at the age of 14, understanding that there are some people who are without a soul. Who is it who created the soul contract or Akashic record, and is it to be believed and worked with?
The soul contract was created by the soul itself. The soul is not what we believe at this current time. It is something very different, and the soul expression is something that we are expressing at this time. We must expand in great detail the soul itself. For to continue this discussion, we must first understand with a platform of awareness what the soul is. To suggest that the soul is cleansed is to honour that part of the mind that is cleansing the experiential path. There is aspects of the language that we communicate with that is limited in capacity to allow understanding in intellectual mind, but we will honour that part of the mind and do what is necessary to alleviate the attachments placed by the soul and in the soul contract. The expression that is termed Akashic record is simply a record of experience between all soul identities, all transitions of mind and all experiential platforms. We will honour that question later also. We are together at this time in space to honour the self process of absolution, and in that process of cleansing, the release of self into God, we are honouring all that we are as soul, as one. But again, we must explain what soul truly is. If you imagine a football pitch of giant proportions, the soul is not the football pitch, but the ball itself in the football game. The soul is not the people that are playing the game of football, but the ball that is moved around between players. And the soul is something that is the heart of experience for many different physical forms. We are not what is limited, but we are what is unlimited. So in the explanation of the ball being the soul, we must further expand and explain that in that ball there is all answers to all question, all universal identities, and all patronage and matronage within that identity. In the reality of soul, there is a world of difference between what we can perceive as a ball in a football ground and a self-expression that is moving between all players. If you imagine that time does not exist and the ball is therefore able to touch all players and all audience members and enter into every single aspect of mind that is carried within that football stadium, that is closer to the truth. But we must imagine the ball as a pinnacle of light that is embracing identity as the person holds it, nurtures it, and understands its nature. To hold all within a football stadium as the ball itself does not allow the understanding of mind. So to limit the soul within a physical structure of ball and to explain that the ball is passed between players and the audience observes the ball being passed between players is more in alignment with human understanding, and we can use this alignment, this analogy, to expand further through intellectual capacity. But ultimately the intellectual capacity to understand must be released in preference for the experiential process. We are engaging with many to allow the experiential process to begin. There is no fear required, there is only love that exists. And to release fear is to embrace the soul, to embrace the light, and allow the process of transition. So the understanding of identity can expand from the intellectual observation of the ball to being all players within the football field and then being all audience members. We like this analogy because we can explain that in the physical body, the football players are holding to the identity of physical and the soul is passed between. In the analogy of non-physical, the audience members are the observers, the non-physical identity that has passed from physical, that has not experienced yet the Christ conscious being in physical form. To explain further and to allow the expansion of mind, we must also say that the non-physical audience members that observe the ball transitioning between physical players are able to easily transmit the information that is required from physical to non-physical and non-physical to physical, and are therefore helping the process of release, helping the process of healing, helping the process of remembering and full return to capacity beyond limit. In that respect, the audience members are able to, as identity, walk in and out of non-physical form quite easily. We will explain this later, but first there is a progressive explanation that is required to allow the transition, allow the intellect to expand and understand that in greater reality there is no fear, there is nothing to expand into other than love, and the mind itself is a progressive game of football. All that enter the football pitch to play the game are being alleviated from the stress of life, alleviated from the pressures of human identity, alleviated from the pressures of needing to gain more, needing material comfort and needing a world that provides. Instead, the players see a world of abundance and do not need abundance. They appreciate the world of abundance and do not need material efforts, do not need material ownership of any items. They simply observe that there is a progressive state and allow the process to begin. Those that have the ball are fully aligned with identity beyond limited mind, and they play the game with much love. There are many in this planetary system now playing the game of light with the football, and therefore encouraging many more players to come forward. This is the transition, and we will encourage this analogy, for it helps the intellect understand what is occurring. Thank you.